when you run for president, you stand in front of people and they ask themselves 4 questions. Do I trust this person with my life?
Right.
Do I trust this person with my job? Does he or she have a view of life somewhat similar to my own? And do I like him or her?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a big responsibility. I remember when I was running for president and flying in a plane over the country, I imagined putting my arms around the country.
Yeah.
And I thought about the 300 million people down below, and that if I were elected, I'd have a chance to help them. And, you know, at those moments, I knew there was evil in the world, but I thought there was no match for our better angels.
Yeah.
And so it's a unique opportunity, and one that I recall as being one of the most intense experiences of my life.
So, and it came at the end of what were really pretty amazing and intense experiences. You know, I think about your history, personal history. Grew up in Missouri, outside of St. Louis. You were the best high school basketball player in the country. You may not say that. I can say that. Everybody knows it's true. You go on to Princeton. You're extraordinary as a college basketball player. You then go on to Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar. You serve for a time in active duty in the U.S. Army Reserves. You go play for the New York Knicks. You actually played in Europe at one point in there as well when you were overseas. You play for the Knicks. You have an extraordinary career as a professional basketball player. You run for the Senate. You're in the Senate for 18 years. You then run for president. You're an everyman, right? You're just like all of us, right?
And Evan, thanks very much for, it's now, I have to leave. It's nice.
Is that the whole But I mean, seriously, if you think about every box that somebody could conceivably want to check in their life, I mean, you checked every one of those.
Well, I was very lucky. I had great parents. I grew up in a nurturing community, and I found a passion when I was 14, basketball.
Yeah.
And I managed to move from there and realized from early age how important education was, and so life evolved. I remember I got 75 basketball scholarship offers.
75.
Yeah, Duke, Kentucky,
Right.
Kansas.
And in fact, you were going to go to Duke, were you not?
I signed an athletic scholarship to go to Duke. Then my father said, you know, you ought to take a trip to Europe. My mother was very pleased I was going to do good Methodist school, right?
Yep.
But my father said, you ought to take a trip to Europe. He'd never graduated from high school. So I went to Europe, 13 women and me on this tour, not bad. And I remember coming into Christ Church Quad at Oxford on a beautiful June afternoon, the manicured lawns, stone walls, dining halls with portraits of prime ministers. And I thought to myself, I got to get back here someday.
Yep.
Came back from the trip, played baseball. I broke my foot. When you're injured, you always imagine the end of your athletic career. Started reading books about Oxford, read about something called the Rhodes Scholarship. Princeton had more Rhodes Scholars than any other university at the time. And so the Duke class was to convene on a Wednesday, the Princeton class on a Monday. On the Friday before, I came home from a date, woke my parents up, said, I want to go to Princeton.
Not Duke, right.
Not Duke.
And this was consequential because you had a pretty significant scholarship, did you not, from Duke? But Princeton does not, Ivy League schools don't give athletic scholarships,
No,
right?
then my father had to pay.